A Viking king could command ships, warriors, and vast amounts of wealth, yet none of those things guaranteed his safety. The greatest danger often stood much closer than any foreign enemy. It could be a brother sitting at the same table, a son listening quietly during a feast, a trusted warrior who had sworn loyalty only months earlier. In the Viking world, power was never secure, and the throne was often the most dangerous place a man could sit. Many people imagine Viking kings as powerful rulers who commanded absolute obedience. The reality was far less stable. Unlike the growing kingdoms of medieval Europe, Viking society lacked many of the institutions that helped rulers maintain long-term control. Power depended on relationships, personal loyalty, and constant negotiation. A king could not simply assume that his authority would be respected tomorrow because it had been respected yesterday. Every alliance had to be maintained. Every rival had to be watched. Every ambitious noble represented a potential threat. The problem began with the very nature of Viking kingship. A crown was not protected by a permanent bureaucracy or an unquestioned system of succession. Local leaders retained enormous influence, and powerful families could support a ruler one year and oppose him the next. The assemblies that helped govern society acted as a check on royal power, rather than a guarantee of it. A king who pushed too far risked losing the support that kept him on the throne in the first place. This created a world where uncertainty was constant. Every gathering carried political risks. Every alliance required maintenance. Every celebration concealed private ambitions. A ruler could never afford to become comfortable because comfort encouraged complacency, and complacency could be fatal. What made this situation even more dangerous was that the greatest threats rarely arrived from across the sea. They emerged from within the kingdom itself. The men who knew a king best often understood exactly how to replace him. They knew his strengths, his weaknesses, his allies, and his enemies. They understood where power truly rested and how quickly it could change hands. For a Viking king, survival required more than courage. It required vigilance. The moment he stopped watching those around him, he risked becoming another ruler remembered only as a warning to those who came after. If foreign enemies threatened a Viking kingdom, family often posed an even greater danger. In many medieval societies, a ruler could hope to rely on his relatives during moments of crisis. In the Viking world, relatives frequently became rivals. The reason was simple. Succession was not always straightforward. A crown did not automatically pass to a single heir while everyone else accepted the decision. Brothers, half-brothers, sons, cousins, and other male members of a royal family could all possess legitimate claims to power. Every ambitious relative represented a possible challenger. Every new claimant increased the risk of conflict. Instead of creating stability, large royal families often created competition. This brutal reality can be seen in the story of Eric Bloodaxe. As the favored son of Harald Fairhair, Eric inherited enormous advantages, but those advantages came with a problem. His brothers were not harmless relatives. They were potential competitors with their own supporters, resources, and ambitions. Eric responded with ruthless violence. According to historical accounts, he systematically eliminated rivals within his own family, believing that every surviving claimant represented a future rebellion waiting to happen. His actions were so notorious that his name became permanently associated with bloodshed. Yet even extreme measures failed to guarantee security. Eric removed rivals, but he could not eliminate the forces that created rivals in the first place. Opposition continued to grow. Eventually, many powerful figures turned against him and supported another claimant. The throne he had fought so hard to secure proved far less stable than he had hoped. The pattern repeated throughout Viking history. Families that should have provided protection often became battlegrounds. Brothers fought brothers. Sons challenged fathers. Relatives formed competing factions and searched for opportunities to advance their own claims. Political disagreements quickly became personal, while personal disputes often evolved into struggles for power. This meant that a Viking king could never view his family in the same way modern people might imagine. Affection and loyalty certainly existed, but so did ambition. Every successful ruler understood that blood ties alone offered no guarantee of safety. Sometimes the people with the strongest reason to support a king also possessed the strongest reason to replace him. And for many rulers, that realization created a level of suspicion that never disappeared. Even if a Viking king survived rival relatives, another problem waited for him. He still had to keep the loyalty of the men who made his rule possible. A throne could not be defended by titles alone. It depended on warriors. It depended on local leaders. Most importantly, it depended on a constant flow of wealth. In the Viking world, loyalty was rarely a permanent condition. It had to be maintained, rewarded, and reinforced over time. A king who stopped rewarding his followers often discovered how quickly support could disappear. This created enormous pressure on every ruler. Public gift-giving was not merely a display of generosity, it was a political necessity. Silver arm rings, weapons, treasure, and shares of plunder helped bind warriors to their leader. Accepting such gifts created obligations, but those obligations only remained strong as long as the relationship continued to benefit both sides. A successful king became known as a generous provider. A struggling king became vulnerable. Imagine returning from a successful campaign. The warriors gather in a great hall, treasure is distributed, silver changes hands, promises are renewed. Everyone appears loyal, yet beneath the celebration lies a simple reality. Much of that loyalty depends on future rewards. If wealth stops flowing, attitudes begin to change. This economic pressure explains why many Viking rulers constantly sought new sources of revenue. Raids, tribute, trade, and foreign campaigns were not only opportunities for expansion, they helped finance the political system itself. A king who failed to reward his followers risked losing the very people responsible for protecting him. That danger never disappeared. A warrior who served faithfully for years could abandon one leader and join another if the balance of rewards shifted. A powerful noble could decide that a rival offered better opportunities. Even sworn agreements could become fragile when wealth became scarce. The result was a political environment filled with uncertainty. Every feast, every reward ceremony, and every distribution of treasure carried political significance. A king was not simply managing a kingdom. He was constantly maintaining a coalition of individuals whose support could not be taken for granted. For that reason, a Viking ruler could never assume that loyalty today would remain loyalty tomorrow. The silver that secured an alliance this year might not be enough next year. And when support began to weaken, ambitious rivals were always ready to take advantage. If family created rivals and wealth created uncertainty, there was another institution that produced its own unexpected dangers. Across the Viking world, powerful families often sent children to be raised in other households. This practice helped build alliances and strengthen relationships between important families. A young prince might spend years growing up far from his biological father, forming deep bonds with another household. In many cases, these relationships became incredibly strong. Sometimes they became stronger than blood itself. At first glance, the system seemed useful. It reduced tensions, created partnerships, and connected influential families. But it also produced consequences that many rulers could not fully control. A foster father was more than a caretaker. Over time, he became a mentor, protector, and political ally. The child developed personal loyalties that extended beyond his immediate family. As years passed, these connections could evolve into powerful networks capable of influencing future struggles for power. This meant that a king who believed he was strengthening alliances might actually be creating future political complications. A foster family could decide to support a particular claimant. Regional supporters could rally around a prince they had helped raise. Relationships built during childhood could later shape military campaigns, rebellions, and succession disputes. The story of Håkon the Good demonstrates how influential these connections could become. Raised in England under the protection of King Athelstan, Håkon gained access to powerful allies and valuable experience. When the opportunity arrived, those connections helped him return to Norway and challenge the rule of his half-brother Eric Bloodaxe. What began as fosterage eventually contributed to a dramatic struggle for power. For Viking kings, this created another reason for caution. Alliances that appeared beneficial in one generation could produce unexpected consequences in the next. Trusted partners could support rival claimants. Foster relationships could evolve into competing power bases. Political calculations that seemed wise today might become dangerous years later. This uncertainty extended far beyond fosterage itself. It reflected a broader reality of Viking politics. Every alliance carried risks. Every friendship possessed strategic value. Every powerful supporter had ambitions of his own. The challenge facing a king was not simply identifying enemies, it was recognizing which allies might eventually become enemies. And in a world where loyalties shifted constantly, that distinction was often difficult to see until it was too late. The greatest lesson of Viking kingship is that power alone could not eliminate insecurity. Some rulers controlled large territories. Some commanded powerful fleets. Some accumulated immense wealth. Yet many of them still fell victim to betrayal, rebellion, or political collapse. Again and again, Viking history reveals the same pattern. The danger did not always come from distant enemies. More often, it emerged from people who already stood within the ruler's circle of trust. One king was overthrown by his own son. Harald Bluetooth spent years expanding his authority, yet opposition eventually gathered around Sweyn Forkbeard. The rebellion succeeded, forcing Harald from power and demonstrating that even a ruler's closest family members could become political threats. Another powerful leader met an equally dramatic end. Håkon Sigurdsson survived years of political conflict only to be killed while hiding from a regional revolt. The man responsible was not a foreign conqueror or rival king. It was a trusted slave who chose a different path when circumstances change. Stories like these appear throughout the Viking Age because they reveal something fundamental about the political world these rulers inhabited. Authority depended on personal relationships. Personal relationships depended on mutual advantage, and mutual advantage could change very quickly. That is why paranoia was not necessarily a weakness. In many cases, it was a survival strategy. A cautious king understood that every alliance required maintenance. Every powerful supporter required attention. Every ambitious relative required observation. Trust could exist, but it could never be unconditional. Modern governments rely on institutions, legal systems, and administrative structures that continue functioning regardless of individual personalities. Viking rulers lived in a different world. Their power rested on people rather than institutions. It rested on loyalty rather than bureaucracy. It rested on relationships that could strengthen a kingdom or destroy it. For that reason, the throne remained both a symbol of power and a source of constant danger. A Viking king might sit above everyone else in the hall, command the strongest warriors in the region, and possess more wealth than any rival. Yet he could never fully relax, because somewhere among his allies, relatives, followers, or advisors, another claimant might already be waiting for an opportunity. And in the Viking world, opportunities rarely stayed hidden for long.